My knack for saying the wrong thing at the wrong time landed me in hot water, as it always seemed to. Over a family dinner at our home in Maplewood, New Jersey, my cousin Emily unleashed a fiery tirade about the injustice of being a girl. She fumed about the hours spent taming her chestnut curls, perfecting her makeup, wrestling into shapewear, and donning dresses that felt more like costumes than clothes, all for the privilege of stepping outside. Meanwhile, she pointed out, boys like me could stumble out of bed and be out the door in minutes. With her hazel eyes flashing and her presence commanding the room, Emily was a vision, the kind of beauty who stopped people in their tracks. I couldn't fathom her frustration. To me, her efforts only amplified her radiance, and she wore every outfit with effortless grace. Yet she pressed on, lamenting how boys could roam freely, stay out late, and venture to places deemed off-limits for girls. The logic escaped me. Around the oak dining table, amid the clatter of forks and plates, the entire family listened as I opened my mouth. I should have known better than to speak. "Emily, what's the big deal?" I said, leaning back in my chair. "Don't you girls want to look good for us? And why shouldn't guys have more freedom? We don't need hours to get ready, and we can handle staying out late." "Us?" My mom, Karen, shot back, her fork pausing midair. "And what's this about rights?" Emily and her mom, Aunt Linda, said in unison, their voices sharp. "What do you mean, us?" Mom pressed, her hazel eyes narrowing. Ignoring the warning glances from Dad and Uncle Mike, I barreled on. "You know, guys, don't you want to look nice for us? You make it sound like some huge ordeal to be pretty. You brush your hair, same as me. Your dresses are just fabric, like my jeans. So what's the problem? Isn't that your job to look good? And yeah, guys are usually in charge, so why can't we do what we want?" Dad and Uncle Mike groaned, their heads shaking like I'd just stepped on a landmine. I caught the glint in Mom's eyes, mirrored by Aunt Linda and Emily, a spark of something fierce. "Oh, so you think it's that easy?" Mom said, her voice tight, like a wire about to snap. "Sure," I shrugged. "Emily's gorgeous anyway, so what's the fuss?" "You think looking pretty is a breeze?" she pressed, leaning forward. "Yeah, no big deal." "Jake," Dad cut in, his tone heavy with warning. "I've got this," Mom snapped, silencing him with a look. "Let's test your theory, Jake. If you're so sure it's easy for girls to look pretty, why don't you try it yourself?" "Prove it." My stomach dropped. "Me? Dress like a girl? No way, Mom." "You know what, Jacob?" she said, her voice low and dangerous. "This isn't a request. You've got a lot of opinions about girls, always chalked up to being a clueless teenager, but this time you're going to see if you're right. If it's so simple, then you, the superior male you seem to think you are, should have no trouble showing us how it's done." Aunt Linda chimed in, smirking. "Like you said, it's just fabric, and you brush your hair too, right?" "What's the issue?" I turned to Dad and Uncle Mike, desperate for backup. Dad sighed, rubbing his temples. "I tried to warn you, Jake. I've told you 100 times to think before you speak, but you didn't listen. You've dug yourself a hole, and while I don't love your mom's plan, that attitude of yours has been getting worse. I'm not fighting her on this. Maybe next time you'll watch what you say, especially about women." Mom seized the moment, her voice firm. "To really understand what it's like, you'll need somewhere to show off. How about—" Emily's eyes lit up, her grin wicked. "You're making him dress like a girl? This is gonna be epic. Oh, I know. There's that big gala at the country club Dad's part of in Westfield. It's a huge party, super fancy. He could go there." "But that's—" Uncle Mike started, but Aunt Linda cut him off. "Perfect. And you've got almost 5 weeks to get him ready for his grand entrance." "I'm not dressing up as a girl," I said, my voice shaking with defiance. "And I'm definitely not going anywhere like that. Plus, my birthday's around then." Mom's eyes flashed. "Oh, we'll see about that, Jake. You built this mess, and I'm calling the shots now. If you push me, if you make me mad enough, I might get creative. Picture this. You at your birthday party, hair buzzed short, in the frilliest pink dress I can find, ruffles, bows, the works. Don't test me. After Emily and her parents left, Dad hauled me into his study, the door clicking shut behind us. His lecture was brutal, his voice low and steady, the kind that made you feel small. He didn't sugarcoat it. I'd run my mouth too many times, and this was the consequence. He wasn't thrilled about Mom's plan, but he made it clear I had no choice. "You'll do what she says," he said, his eyes boring into mine. "Maybe you'll learn something." The idea of parading around as a girl sent a chill down my spine, especially when he hinted Mom might make me practice maybe for longer than I feared. "This attitude of yours," he went on, "this way you talk about girls, it's got to stop. You've been rude to your mom, giving her lip, ignoring her unless I step in. That ends now. Maybe it's those friends you hang with, but we're done with it. If this dress thing teaches you to think twice, so be it." I wanted to argue, but his tone left no room. "5 weeks isn't forever," he said, leaning back in his leather chair. "But if you don't want to end up at your birthday party looking like a pageant queen with a crew cut, you'd better do exactly what your mom says. And don't make her angrier, she might stretch this out, and you won't like what she comes up with." Dad's words were final, like a judge's gavel. I was trapped, headed for a fate I couldn't dodge, and the thought of it, skirts, makeup, the whole deal made my skin crawl. But I had no illusions. I was going to do what Mom told me, like it or not. The trouble started with my big mouth, as it often did. My cousin Emily had been venting over dinner at our house in suburban Maplewood, New Jersey, about how unfair it was that girls had to spend hours getting ready just to step outside. She ranted about curling her hair, layering on makeup, squeezing into shapewear, and slipping into dresses that felt like costumes, all while boys got to roll out of bed and go. Emily was stunning long chestnut hair, bright hazel eyes, the kind of girl who turned heads without trying, and I couldn't wrap my head around her complaints. To me, all that effort only made her glow more, and she never seemed uneasy in her outfits. Besides, she was griping about how boys could stay out later, hit up places girls weren't supposed to, and I just didn't get local disc. Data, books, 2025, 2025 or 103, self-discovery. Chapter 1, Doc Sit. The whole family was gathered around the oak dining table, forks clinking against plates, when I opened my mouth. I should have kept it shut. "Emily, what's the big deal?" I said, leaning back in my chair. "Don't you girls want to look good for us? And why shouldn't guys have more freedom? We don't need hours to get ready, and we can handle staying out late." "Us," my mom, Karen, shot back, her fork pausing midair. "And what's this about rights?" Emily and her mom, Aunt Linda, said in unison, their voices sharp. "What do you mean, us?" Mom pressed, her hazel eyes narrowing. Ignoring the warning glances from Dad and Uncle Mike, I barreled on. "You know, guys, don't you want to look nice for us? You make it sound like some huge ordeal to be pretty. You brush your hair, same as me. Your dresses are just fabric, like my jeans. So what's the problem? Isn't that your job to look good? And yeah, guys are usually in charge, so why can't we do what we want?" Dad and Uncle Mike groaned, their heads shaking like I'd just stepped on a landmine. I caught the glint in Mom's eyes, mirrored by Aunt Linda and Emily, a spark of something fierce. "Oh, so you think it's that easy?" Mom said, her voice tight, like a wire about to snap. "Sure," I shrugged. "Emily's gorgeous anyway, so what's the fuss?" "You think looking pretty is a breeze?" she pressed, leaning forward. "Yeah, no big deal." "Jake," Dad cut in, his tone heavy with warning. "I've got this," Mom snapped, silencing him with a look. "Let's test your theory, Jake. If you're so sure it's easy for girls to look pretty, why don't you try it yourself? Prove it." My stomach dropped. "Me? Dress like a girl? No way, Mom." "You know what, Jacob?" she said, her voice low and dangerous. "This isn't a request. You've got a lot of opinions about girls, always chalked up to being a clueless teenager. But this time, you're going to see if you're right. If it's so simple, then you, the superior male, you seem to think you are, should have no trouble showing us how it's done." Aunt Linda chimed in, smirking. Like you said, it's just fabric, and you brush your hair too, right? What's the issue? I turned to Dad and Uncle Mike, desperate for backup. Dad sighed, rubbing his temples. I tried to warn you, Jake. I've told you 100 times to think before you speak, but you didn't listen. You've dug yourself a hole, and while I don't love your mom's plan, that attitude of yours has been getting worse. I'm not fighting teaching you to think twice, especially about women. Mom seized the moment, her voice firm. To really understand what it's like, you'll need somewhere to show off. How about… Emily's eyes lit up, her grin wicked. You're making him dress like a girl? This is gonna be epic. Oh, I know. There's that big gala at the country club Dad's part of in Westfield. It's a huge party, super fancy. He could go there. But that's… Uncle Mike started. But Aunt Linda cut him off. Perfect. And you've got almost 5 weeks to get him ready for his grand entrance. I'm not dressing up as a girl, I said, my voice shaking with defiance. And I'm definitely not going anywhere like that. Plus, my birthday's around then. Mom's eyes flashed. Oh, we'll see about that, Jake. You built this mess, and I'm calling the shots now. If you push me, if you make me mad enough, I might get creative. Picture this. You at your birthday party, hair buzzed short, in the frilliest pink dress I can find, ruffles, bows, the works. Don't test me. After Emily and her parents left, Dad hauled me into his study, the door clicking shut behind us. His lecture was brutal, his voice low and steady, the kind that made you feel small. He didn't sugarcoat it. I'd run my mouth too many times, and this was the consequence. He wasn't thrilled about Mom's plan, but he made it clear I had no choice. You'll do what she says, he said, his eyes boring into mine. Maybe you'll learn something. The idea of parading around as a girl sent a chill down my spine, especially when he hinted Mom might make me practice maybe for longer than I feared. This attitude of yours, he went on, this way you talk about girls, it's got to stop. You've been rude to your mom, giving her lip, ignoring her unless I step in. That ends now. Maybe it's those friends you hang with, but we're done with it. If this dress thing teaches you to think twice, so be it. I wanted to argue, but his tone left no room. 5 weeks isn't forever, he said, leaning back in his leather chair. But if you don't want to end up at your birthday party looking like a pageant queen with a crew cut, you'd better do exactly what your mom says. And don't make her angrier, she might stretch this out, and you won't like what she comes up with. Dad's words were final, like a judge's gavel. I was trapped, headed for a fate I couldn't dodge, and the thought of it, skirts, makeup, the whole deal made my skin crawl. But I had no illusions. I was going to do what Mom told me, like it or not. Neither Dad nor I could have guessed that, when he said I might learn something from this, the lesson would twist in ways we never imagined. That night, Mom stayed silent about her plans, leaving me to stew in my dread. Before bed, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror in Maplewood, New Jersey, staring at my reflection. Stripped down, my 14-year-old frame was nothing to brag about scrawny arms yet to bulk up. A smooth, hairless chest with barely a hint of muscle, and a small round butt that Mom teasingly called my bubble butt. Like half the guys at school, I'd let my hair grow long, and when I pulled it free from its usual ponytail, a cascade of auburn, almost red, waves spilled over my shoulders, curling just enough to catch the light. That's when it hit me. Mom might actually pull this off. She could turn me into a girl. The thought made my stomach churn, but after Dad's lecture, I knew resistance was futile. All I could hope for was that I'd look so ridiculous they'd take pity and call it off. Fat chance. A whole day passed before Mom summoned me to her bedroom, the door clicking shut behind me. She turned, a sly smile playing on her lips. I know you're hoping I'll forget Jake, or that we'll let this slide. But these past few months, you've developed this attitude about girls like we're dim, frivolous, or just here to wait on you or look pretty for guys. Well, that's nonsense, and your dad and I agree it's time you see things from our perspective. Starting now, with my help, you're going to find out what it's like to be a girl. I picked up a few things you'll need, so strip down and let's get started. But Mom, I protested, my voice cracking. That gala Emily mentioned is 5 weeks away. Why start now? Because you need practice, she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. You can't possibly think I'd let you show up to a fancy event like that and embarrass us, do you? No, honey. You're about to learn what it means to be a girl, and you've got 5 weeks to get as feminine as possible. But listen closely. At that gala, you'll have two choices, and they're yours to make. You can be graceful, poised, and feminine, so convincing that no one will suspect a thing. Or you can stumble around like a boy in a dress, making it obvious who you are. If that happens and people don't figure it out, I'll make sure they know along with why you're dressed that way. It's up to you. She paused, letting her words sink in as my jaw dropped. Now get undressed. Her eyes held that unyielding look I knew too well, and with a heavy sigh, I started peeling off my clothes. Down to my briefs, I froze as she handed me a pair of soft, pale pink panties. My heart sank, but I slipped them on, the fabric cool against my skin. She sat me at her vanity, brushing my hair back and guiding me through applying makeup foundation, blush, eyeliner, mascara, the works. I fumbled with the brushes, but under her sharp instructions, I did most of it myself. When I glanced in the mirror, my breath caught. With just a touch of makeup, I looked almost pretty. It was horrifying. Next came a bra, which she showed me how to fasten before slipping in a pair of flesh-toned breast forms that looked unnervingly real, filling the cups perfectly. A padded panty brief gave me curves I didn't want, followed by sheer pantyhose that made my legs shimmer. She handed me a navy skirt that stopped a few inches above my knees, and a fitted white sweater that clung to my new shape. Brand new white flats hugged my feet, and she styled my hair into soft waves, clipping on dangling earrings and a delicate necklace. A spritz of her floral perfume and a tube of coral lipstick completed the transformation. When I saw myself in the full-length mirror, I nearly broke. I looked like Emily and her friends, cute, polished, undeniably girlish. My hope of looking awful enough to escape this was shattered. I wasn't just passable, I was, against all odds, kind of adorable. The skirt flared slightly, accentuating the padded hips, and the sweater hugged the modest curves of the breast forms. My auburn hair framed my face, the makeup highlighting my cheekbones and making my green eyes pop. I was drowning in a mix of resentment and disbelief, furious at being forced into this, but also stung that I didn't look bad enough for them to back off. Mom's smile widened as she took my hand, pulling me out of the room. Dad wasn't home, a small mercy, but I knew that confrontation was looming. The sensation of the skirt brushing my thighs, the slight bounce of the breast forms, and the slick feel of pantyhose made every step feel alien. In the family room, Mom left me to adjust, and I wandered to the hall mirror, unable to resist another look. Staring at my reflection, I felt a strange cocktail of fear and thrill, like the moment a roller coaster crests its peak. Everything about me had changed, and that scared me. I hadn't thought this was possible. Yet, I couldn't deny I looked as good as any girl in my class. The pantyhose sculpted my legs into something sleek and shapely, the breast forms were perfectly proportioned, and the makeup and hair made me feel almost feminine. It was a fleeting, unwanted spark of excitement, quickly buried under my anger. Just as I started to settle into the bizarre reality, Mom reappeared, thrusting a small white purse at me. "We're going," she said. "You've got an appointment." "Appointment?" I echoed, my voice shaky. "Of course," she said, like it was obvious. "You mentioned Emily's hair, didn't you? She has a girl's cut, so to really understand what it's like, you're getting the full experience. We're headed to the salon for a proper feminine haircut and a manicure for those stubby nails of yours." "Mom, please!" I begged, my heart racing. "Take the purse, Sophie," she said firmly. "We've got 20 minutes." Sophie? The name hit like a slap. She hadn't mentioned using a girl's name, and now I was supposed to answer to it? I hesitated, but her piercing look, familiar from years of learning when to back down, made me grab the purse. Every fiber of me screamed against leaving the house, but Mom's insistence was ironclad. I followed her to the car, each step in the flats feeling like a march to my doom. The drive to the salon in nearby Westfield was a blur, my nerves fraying as we pulled into the lot. Crossing the asphalt to the shop's glass doors, the breeze teasing my skirt, was almost more than I could handle. But stepping inside, surrounded by the hum of hairdryers and the scent of shampoo, I felt a tiny bit safer. At least I wasn't exposed to the world. The receptionist greeted us warmly, like we were regulars. Then a stylist, her apron crisp and white, called out, "Sophie, I'll be taking care of you today. Come on over." I froze, rooted to the spot, but the stylist gently guided me by the arm, and before I could protest, I was settled into the salon chair in Westfield, New Jersey. Her cheerful voice cut through my panic. "Your mom mentioned it's been forever since you've had a proper hair appointment, Sophie, and that you weren't sure what you wanted. She gave me a few ideas, so just relax, and I'll take care of everything. You're going to love this." As she leaned me back to wash my hair, the warm water and her fingers massaging my scalp felt oddly soothing, a small betrayal of my resolve to hate every second of this. Then she started snipping, and my heart sank as long auburn strands fell to the floor, each cut severing my hope of escaping this unscathed. I watched in the mirror as she rolled my hair into a mix of large and small curlers, transforming my head into a bizarre crown of plastic. Under the dryer, the hum drowned out the salon's chatter, leaving me alone with my thoughts. Mom took the chair I'd vacated, getting her own touch-up, while a manicurist approached me. Just as Mom had warned, she set to work on my nails, pushing back cuticles, filing, and sanding before applying a white gel that hardened under a blue light. She shaped each nail into a gentle oval, painting them a soft coral pink that gleamed under the salon's lights. The longer nails made my fingers look slender, almost delicate, and with my hair in curlers, I realized Mom had trapped me. These changes nails, hair weren't coming off easily. I'd be Sophie for at least 5 weeks, maybe longer if Mom got creative. Resistance might only make things worse, so I stayed silent, letting the transformation unfold. I could have kicked up a fuss, maybe stormed out, but past experience taught me that defiance only tightened Mom's grip. When the stylist brushed out my hair, the curls bounced, fuller and shinier than before, framing my face in a way that screamed feminine. It was still long, grazing my shoulders, but shaped to enhance the illusion. Mom paid the $80 bill for both of us, her smile triumphant as we left. "One more stop, Sophie, then we're done for the day." "Do I get a say in this?" I muttered, clutching my purse. "Not really," she said, her tone light but firm. "But you'll like it, and honestly, you look adorable." "Fantastic," I shot back, sarcasm dripping. "That's the spirit," she teased. "Glad we're on the same page?" "That's not what I meant. Let's hold off on the arguing until we're done, okay?" "Fine," I grumbled, slumping in the passenger seat as she drove us to the Short Hills Mall. On the way, she glanced at me. "I saw you checking yourself out in the salon mirror. You know you look amazing, right?" I had my doubts, but you're absolutely stunning as Sophie. We're here to pick up a few more things, and I thought you might want a say in choosing them. Consider this your first test. Stick with me, and you'll be fine. Inside the mall, I kept my head down, convinced everyone could see through the disguise. Then a familiar voice called out, "Hey, Mrs. Thompson!" I looked up to see Ryan, a buddy from school, standing nearby. His eyes slid over me, and he flashed a shy smile before waving and walking off. My stomach twisted, but Mom stifled a laugh. Convinced yet? Ryan had no clue. She was right, and it stung. After she nudged me to stand taller, we headed into Macy's, where I was overwhelmed by the endless racks of women's clothing. I'd never noticed girls' clothes before, unless a girl was wearing them, so I was way out of my depth. Mom selected a few skirts, blouses, and tops, then told me to pick 2 dresses. My first instinct was to grab drab colors to blend in, but a glance in a store mirror stopped me. No matter what I wore, I looked like a girl. Resigned, I chose a pale blue dress and a deep green one, colors that didn't feel too loud. Mom nodded, adding a pair of black capri pants and jeans to the pile. She paid the $220 bill, then grabbed 2 more bras, a pack of panties, and extra pantyhose. As we headed for the exit, she paused by a jewelry kiosk. Want to pierce your other ear? It'd simplify things. Post earrings give you more options, and the hole will close up later if you stop wearing them. It made a twisted kind of sense. Clip-ons pinched, and since I was stuck as Sophie for weeks, I gave in after a moment's hesitation. Inside the shop, I left with a small bag of stud earrings, a couple of necklaces, and a silver bracelet I picked out myself. By the time we got home and hung the clothes in my closet skirts, dresses, and blouses next to my old tees and jeans, the reality crashed over me. Bras and panties filled my dresser, and with my polished nails and curled hair, I'd become a girl in a single day. Every step had piled on more femininity, and I'd even agreed to the second piercing. The nails, gleaming coral, and impossible to hide, felt like a bigger betrayal than the breast forms I could at least remove. I was trapped in this new skin, and the weight of it was suffocating. Mom roped me into helping with dinner, tying a floral apron over my sweater and skirt. When Dad walked in, his eyes widened briefly before settling into a resigned nod. "Well, your mom was right, Jake. You really do look like a girl." "Gee, thanks," I muttered, stirring the pasta sauce. "Don't be too hard on Sophie," Mom said, emphasizing the name. "She's still adjusting." "Sophie?" Dad raised an eyebrow. "Wasn't that what we'd have named her if she'd been born a girl?" Mom finished, sounding almost smug. "Since we get to name our kids, I thought Sophie would make this easier for her." Dad paused, like he might say more, maybe call it a prank, or tell Mom she'd gone too far. But instead, he asked, "When's dinner?" "I've got calls to make." 20 minutes, Mom replied. I'd hoped for a reaction, some pushback to stop this, but he disappeared into his study, leaving me to set the table. The skirt swished against my legs, the breast forms shifted slightly, and I realized I was getting used to them, a thought that made my skin crawl. Dinner passed without a word about my appearance, as if Sophie was just part of the routine. After washing dishes, I escaped to my room, eager to lose myself in my computer. Typing with longer nails was a hassle, each click a reminder of my new reality, but I managed. Hours later, Mom slipped in, handing me a pale blue nightgown I hadn't seen her buy. "Get ready for bed," she said, her tone gentle but expectant. A nightgown? I wanted to argue, but knowing she'd probably check, I started undressing, folding the sweater, skirt, and pantyhose neatly on my chair. Down to the bra and panties, I stood in the dim light of my room, the weight of the day pressing harder than ever. Sophie wasn't just a costume anymore, she was taking over, and I didn't know how to stop her. I don't know why I did it, maybe because fighting felt pointless by then, but I kept the bra and panties on, slipped the soft blue nightgown over my head, and climbed into bed. Lying in the dark of my Maplewood, New Jersey bedroom, I replayed the day's events. Mom had won every battle without much resistance from me, and by dinner time, my transformation into Sophie was nearly complete. My reflection in the Salon mirror, the clothes in my closet, the coral polish on my nails, it all screamed girl. With no escape from Mom's plan, I realized I had to lean into this, become as convincing as possible to shield myself from humiliation. If Ryan or any of the guys at school found out, I'd never live it down. Mom had cornered me neatly. Either embody Sophie and maybe slip by unnoticed, or half-ass it and let everyone know the truth. As my fingers brushed the breast forms, I thought back to how I'd looked that afternoon, cute, polished, undeniably feminine. Then, to my shock, a familiar stir hit me. Mr. Happy, as I called it, woke up. I did what any teenage boy would, but only later, in the haze of guilt. Did I realize my girl self had sparked it? The thought twisted my gut. At breakfast, still in the nightgown, the breast form's outline was obvious under the thin fabric. Neither parent commented. Dad, usually reserved with a quick, be good sport for me, kissed both Mom and me on the cheek before heading to work, a gesture that felt strangely formal. Mom sipped her coffee, then said, Go get dressed, Sophie. Wear the brown and white skirt. I'll help with your makeup. Why not the jeans? I asked, hoping for something less exposing. We're running errands, and I want you comfortable in skirts before you wear jeans again. Go change, I'll be up soon. In my room, I fumbled through the makeup routine foundation. Blush, eyeliner under Mom's watchful eye. More confident than yesterday, but still uneasy. The new bra went on smoother, and I stepped into the skirt, its hem brushing just above my knees. My old penny loafers felt like a small anchor to my past, and after swiping on coral lipstick, we headed out. At the drugstore, Mom picked out a 58 makeup kit, 3 lipsticks, and a bottle of coral nail polish just for me. As we drove off, she glanced over. I noticed you kept the bra on last night. I shrugged, staring out the window. With these nails, my hair, and that nightgown, I figured, might as well. She nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. That's a good sign, Sophie. It means you're starting to accept this. I can help more if you let me, but we'll talk about it at home, okay? Sure, I mumbled, curious but wary. How? You'll see. She made a quick stop at a specialty shop, the one where she'd bought the breast forms, leaving me in the car. My nerves spiked when she turned toward Emily's street in Westfield. There, outside her house, Emily stood chatting with 2 girls, their laughter carrying across the lawn. My heart pounded as Mom parked and got out, forcing me to follow or look like a coward. Emily's eyes flickered with confusion for a split second before she caught on. Emily, introduce Sophie to your friends while I talk to your mom, Mom said, leaving me stranded. Hi, Sophie, Emily said brightly, covering her surprise. This is Katie and Lauren. Hi, they chirped together, their smiles warm and oblivious. Emily, quick on her feet, spun a story about me being new to the area, and Katie and Lauren bought it, treating me like just another girl. They were friendly, chatty, and completely unaware, which both relieved and unnerved me. After they left, Emily and I went inside, where Aunt Linda leaped up and pulled me into a tight hug. I knew it! You're absolutely adorable, Sophie! Can Sophie come with us tonight? Emily asked, bouncing with excitement. We're hitting the mall, maybe grabbing sodas after. Who's us? Mom asked, eyebrow raised. Katie, Lauren, and me, Emily said. Mom considered it. Fine, as long as Sophie's back by 10. Emily squealed, but my stomach churned. What if she let slip who I was? Aunt Linda shut that down fast, her voice stern. Emily, you are not to tell anyone who Sophie really is, or you'll regret it. Understand? Emily swore she wouldn't, and Mom and I headed home, with a promise to return by 6. I didn't know it then, but that night would pull me deeper into the world of girls, faster than I could have imagined. At home, Mom led me to my room and told me to take off my blouse and bra. She swabbed my chest with an alcohol wipe, the sharp scent stinging my nose. Since you wore the bra to bed, and those girls clearly think you're one of them, we should make sure they never find out the truth, don't you think? They'd destroy me if they knew, I said, my voice tight. That's why I got this. She held up a small tube. It's adhesive for the breast forms. It'll secure them to your chest so you can go braless if needed. Can I do it? I nodded, too scared of being exposed to refuse. Hold still. I stood rigid as she applied the glue, pressing the forms firmly until the seams blended with my skin. When she stepped back, I looked down, stunned. They looked like they'd grown there, moving naturally with every breath. The sensation was different, each bounce or brush felt real, and while it terrified me, a small part was relieved. At least I wouldn't be caught out easily. I pulled the blouse back on, the fabric grazing the forms, and ate an early dinner before Mom drove me to Emily's. There, Emily grabbed my arm, pulling me to the backyard swings. "Damn, Sophie, you look incredible," she said, grinning. "I'm still adjusting," I muttered, gripping the swing's chains. "Don't spill anything tonight, or I'm done for." "They didn't suspect a thing, did they? Relax. Just be a girl tonight, and we'll have fun. You might even find something you like." When Katie and Lauren arrived, Aunt Linda drove us to the Short Hills Mall, dropping us off with warnings about boys and a strict pickup time. The thought of boys noticing me made my skin crawl, but the others were thrilled, giggling as they dragged me inside. We browsed everything: skirts, dresses, heels, jewelry, lacy lingerie, even winter coats, while the girls pointed out cute boys. Lauren was the boldest, tossing her hair and drawing stares, while Emily played cheerleader, hyping everyone up. Katie was quieter, like me, until her eyes locked on someone. "There he is!" "He's coming over." "Who?" I asked, confused. "Ethan!" she whispered, her cheeks flushing. "Chins up, girls," Emily said with a smirk. "Smile." I forced a smile, my heart racing as Ethan and his friend approached. Ethan's grin was all charm, and when his eyes stayed on Katie, I exhaled. His friend, though, stood close to me, and I felt a nudge against my arm, subtle but deliberate. My pulse spiked, and I froze, unsure whether to run or play along. "Hi," he said, his voice low and warm. "I'm Lucas." I'm Sophie," I stammered, cringing at how my voice lilted, sounding more like a question than a statement. I was starting to talk like a girl, and it freaked me out. "We were heading to grab some sodas," Lucas said, his hazel eyes lingering on me. "Maybe." "So are we," Emily cut in, her grin wide and mischievous. Before I knew it, Emily and Lauren paired off, Ethan and Katie drifted together, and I was stuck walking beside Lucas. Emily shot me a knowing smirk over her shoulder, and my stomach twisted. She'd already called me cute, and Lucas's easy stride next to me made it clear he thought so too. We pushed 2 tables together at the mall's food court in Short Hills, the chatter of the girls and the clink of soda cans filling the air. I sat rigid, hyper-aware of Lucas's gaze, wondering how I was pulling this off. His smiles and casual questions about school, music, nothing heavy gave me the creeps. Not because he was pushy, but because he thought I was a girl and was clearly into me. I knew every line he was using. I'd used them myself. It was weirdly flattering, but admitting that, even to myself, felt like a betrayal. After about 30 minutes, the guys wandered off, leaving us girls to roam the mall. "Lucas is into you," Katie said, nudging me as we passed a brightly lit storefront. "He's a catch, Sophie," Lauren added, her tone tinged with envy. "Super cute." "Did you give him your number?" Emily asked, her grin teasing. "No way," I blurted. "My dad doesn't let me date." It was the lamest excuse I could muster, but it worked. "Let's check this out." Lauren pointed to a dress shop, and the girls charged in like a pack of excited puppies. Katie was the first to try on a dress, stepping out of the changing booth with a sly smile, her bra clearly off, the dress's low neckline showing more than I expected. Emily grabbed a similar style and followed suit, then Lauren. I stood frozen, my mind racing at the sight of real curves, when Katie thrust a shimmery teal dress at me. "Come on, Sophie, make it a foursome!" I opened my mouth to protest, but Emily jumped in. "Oh, I don't think Sophie's up for that one." She was trying to protect me, unaware of the breast forms glued to my chest. But Katie and Lauren's expectant looks, paired with a sudden urge to prove I could keep up, pushed me over the edge. "Sure, why not?" I said, grabbing the dress and heading to a booth. I stripped off my top and bra, the adhesive holding the forms tight, and slipped on the dress. Stepping out, I caught Emily's stunned expression. For effect, I bent slightly to adjust the hem, letting the neckline reveal the realistic curves underneath. Katie and Lauren gasped, impressed, while Emily's jaw dropped. Smirking, I sauntered back to change, a rush of triumph mixing with my nerves. I'd done it to show Emily I could handle this, but it also cemented Katie and Lauren's belief that I was just like them. That meant they saw no reason not to nudge Lucas my way, which Lauren did repeatedly before Aunt Linda picked us up. Emily, to her credit, never hinted I was anything but Sophie, though her eyes burned with questions. After dropping Katie and Lauren off, Emily turned to her mom. "Can Sophie sleep over?" "But Sophie isn't," Aunt Linda started. "She is now," Emily insisted, grinning. "You'll change in separate rooms," Aunt Linda said firmly. "I'll call your mom when we get home." Mom approved, and at Emily's house, she handed me a pale pink nightgown, her excitement barely contained. "Spill it, Sophie. How'd you get those boobs? Are they real? No way, they can't be. Show me!" Still buzzing from fooling Katie and Lauren, I lifted my top and unhooked the bra, revealing the seamlessly attached forms. Emily's eyes widened, but footsteps in the hall made me yank the top down and dart to the bathroom to change. I returned in the nightgown, the panties my only underlayer, and we sprawled on her bed, munching popcorn and watching a rom-com. Aunt Linda tinkered in her sewing room, leaving us alone. "Lucas was totally into you," Emily said, tossing a kernel in the air. "Maybe, but it's not happening," I said, brushing it off. "I'm back to myself in 5 weeks, remember?" "You sure?" she teased, raising an eyebrow. "That's what Mom and Dad said," I shot back, though her doubt gnawed at me. "He's cute, though," she pressed. "Admit it." "Drop it, Emily. I'm in deep enough." "Then why'd you show off tonight? Letting us see those boobs?" I sighed, fidgeting with the nightgown's hem. "You said I couldn't wear that dress, like I wasn't up to it. I wanted to prove I could. Plus, Katie and Lauren bought it, right? Now they're sure I'm a girl. Isn't that the point so no one finds out?" She nodded, but her eyes drifted to a photo on her nightstand. "The guy I like was there tonight, but he only had eyes for Katie." "Who?" I asked. "Ethan," she said, her voice soft. "He's like, perfect." "You'd have to throw yourself at him to get his attention with Katie around," I said, half joking. "Ugh, no kidding." She sighed, then perked up. "What about you? Any boys you think are cute?" "None," I said firmly. "Are you crazy?" "Come on, you're a girl now. Think like one. Who's cute, Sophie? Be honest." I hesitated, her challenge poking at something I didn't want to face. "I guess, maybe Ryan? He's nice, I suppose." "Ryan Carter?" Emily's eyes lit up. "He's adorable, but super shy." "You'd have to make the first move if you want him to notice you." "No way," I said, shaking my head. "Not happening." "We'll see," she said slyly. "You were so natural tonight, I almost forgot you're not really Sophie. Your voice, the way you move, it's like you're one of us. Maybe you like this more than you're letting on." I muttered a quick no, shrugging to dodge the truth in her words. Aunt Linda poked her head in, telling us to quiet down and sleep. Exhausted from the night's whirlwind, I curled up in a sleeping bag on Emily's floor and passed out fast. Morning came, and we shuffled to breakfast in our nightgowns. Aunt Linda's eyes flicked to my chest, noticing I didn't need a bra. But she said nothing. Over pancakes, she mentioned Mom had called and wanted me to call back. After eating, I dialed home. Dad picked up, and when I said, "It's me," his voice turned sharp, handing the phone to Mom without a word. "Sophie," Mom said, "remember that boy we saw at the mall? Ryan. He called yesterday, said he found our number online. Wanted to talk to you, but I told him you were out with friends. He called again this morning, and when I said you were at Emily's, he mentioned he lives nearby and might swing by. Your dad took the first call, and he's confused about why a boy's calling you. I explained Ryan thinks you're a girl, but he's not used to this. Put Linda on." I passed the phone to Aunt Linda, who listened, grunted a few times, and hung up with a smile. "Get dressed, girls," she said. "Sophie, you can borrow a pair of Emily's shorts and a top." I followed Emily upstairs, my mind reeling. Ryan calling the house? Dad's anger? Sophie was spiraling out of control, and I wasn't sure I could keep up. Emily handed me a pair of tan shorts and a light green top, and after I applied my makeup more confidently now, though still with a knot in my stomach, she styled my hair, leaving it loose with two small barrettes pinning it back from my face. We checked our reflections in her bedroom mirror, and I barely recognized the girl staring back. When we joined Aunt Linda in the family room, Emily hadn't asked about Mom's call, so she was clueless until Aunt Linda suggested we wait on the porch for my guest. Emily's eyes lit up, and by the time we stepped outside, she was hounding me to spill who was coming. I didn't want to say Ryan's name, dreading the moment, but I didn't have to. He rounded the corner, heading straight for us in his easy, lanky stride. Emily jabbed me in the ribs, her whisper sharp. "You sneak! You didn't tell me!" "I didn't know until Mom called, I swear," I hissed back. "Hey, Emily," Ryan said, flashing a shy smile before turning to me. "I'm Ryan Carter. Saw you at the mall the other day." "This is Sophie," Emily said, her grin barely contained. "Hi," I managed, my voice catching. "Mom said you called yesterday?" "Yeah," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I saw you with your mom and wanted to say hi." I froze, unsure how to respond, but Emily jumped in. "Sophie and I have some stuff to do, Ryan. Maybe come back around 4?" "Sure, sounds good," he said, his eyes lingering on me. "Nice meeting you, Sophie. See you later." The second he walked away, Emily pounced. "He totally tracked you down. Bet he recognized your mom, looked up your number and called. You called her mom in front of him, didn't you? He thinks a girl named Sophie lives at your house. If he's got your address, what happens a few months from now when he shows up?" Her words hit like a punch. Ryan was nice quiet, kinda sweet. But if he ever found out I wasn't Sophie, he'd tell everyone. I'd be a laughingstock, friendless. Yet, buried deep, a small part of me glowed at the thought that someone outside my family thought I was pretty. The attention, the girl talk with Emily and her friends, the soft fabrics, even the way Ryan's eyes softened when he looked at me, it stirred something I didn't want to name. I was starting to like being Sophie, and it terrified me. I'd never been into guys, but Ryan's interest, innocent as it was, made me feel seen in a way I never had as Jake. It was thrilling and wrong, pulling me into a spiral I couldn't escape, and maybe didn't want to. Aunt Linda drove us back to my house in Maplewood, Emily chattering beside me. When we walked in, Dad's scowl stopped me cold. He didn't say a word, just turned back to his newspaper, but the tension was thick. I hurried to my room, Emily trailing, and sank onto my bed, glum. Ryan's visit at 4 loomed like a storm. If I met him as Sophie, he'd expect me to stay Sophie. If I dodged him and my parents backed me up, he'd get curious, maybe dig around and uncover the truth. Either way, I was screwed. I couldn't admit I was starting to like being a girl, not to Emily, who already suspected, and definitely not to Mom or Dad. Dad's reaction would be a disaster. Emily sat on my desk chair, silent, sensing my mood. Then Mom knocked and stepped in. "Emily, could you give us a minute? Sophie and I need to talk." "Sure," Emily said, hopping up. "I'll be downstairs." "Your mom's waiting for you, Emily," Mom added. "Sophie can call you later." Emily left, and Mom sat beside me, her voice soft. "We didn't plan for this, Sophie, but we've got a problem, don't we?" "Yeah," I said, staring at my coral-painted nails. "Ryan, he thinks I'm a girl. We only wanted you to understand what it's like to be a girl," she said, sighing. "We never imagined this would happen, or that you'd look so convincing. I've been watching you these past few days. You're not just acting like a girl. You're talking like one, moving like one. You've got friends who see you as Sophie, and between us you like it, don't you?" I looked up, my throat tight, and tears spilled over before I could stop them. She'd seen right through me, and I couldn't say the words. "It's okay," she said, brushing a tear from my cheek. "You don't have to say it, as long as we both know." The question now is, what do we do? "Dad," I choked out. Didn't he like me as a boy? Is that why you're pushing this? Because I messed up so much?" No, honey, she said firmly, taking my chin in her hand. You're my child, and I'll always love you, no matter what. Clothes don't define you unless you let them. This is new for all of us. After seeing how you've taken to this, I did some research. Boys who discover they like dressing as girls, even if they didn't expect it, often want to keep going. You didn't want this at first, but it's obvious you've found something in it. There's nothing wrong with that. We'll figure out how to live with this, but your dad's struggling. When Ryan called, he didn't know how to handle it. Like me, he never thought a boy would find you attractive enough to call. Now we're all at a crossroads. She paused, her eyes searching mine. We said 5 weeks, but we can stop this right now if you want. Or we can go all in, make you as feminine as possible, and let you meet Ryan. But if you do, can you see yourself going back to being Jake? Especially after spending time with a boy who thinks you're Sophie? If you want to keep being a girl, you'll need to show your dad, not just tell him. Become the most feminine version of yourself, how you walk, talk, dress, everything a girl your age would be. Let your actions speak, and maybe he'll understand. I nodded, tears still falling, overwhelmed by the choice. Stop now and claw my way back to Jake, or lean into Sophie and face whatever came next. Ryan's visit was hours away, and I had no idea how to navigate it, or the part of me that didn't want to let Sophie go. You can stop this now, Sophie, or keep going, it's your call, Mom said, her voice steady but searching. But if you want to continue as a girl, your dad needs to know. You can't hide it from him. If that's your choice, I want you to tell me first. Mom, I didn't plan this, I said, my voice cracking. It just happened. I can't help it. But what'll people say? I heard Emily mention you tried on a dress without a bra, she said, raising an eyebrow. Were the other girls there? Yeah, I admitted, fidgeting. We all tried one on without bras. Emily kind of pushed me into it. Pushed you? What? Are you a puppet? She asked, her tone sharp. She said I couldn't do it, like I wasn't up to it or needed your permission for everything. So you and the girls were trying on dresses, like any group of teenage girls? She pressed. If I didn't, I'd look weird, I said, exasperated. They'd think something was up. Without a bra? She continued. That means they believe you've got breasts like theirs, right? Yeah, but do you want to keep dressing as a girl, Sophie? She cut in, her eyes locking onto mine. It sounds like you do. I think so, I mumbled, my chest tight. I'm not sure. But Dad, if I do, he'll hate me. He won't hate you, she said firmly. He'll struggle, sure. He thinks this ends in 5 weeks, so let's not tell him how you feel yet. Let's show him by making you as feminine as possible. I sat on my bed, staring blankly at the wall, torn in two. Part of me screamed to rip off the clothes, scrub away Sophie, and claw back to Jake's shaky masculinity. But another part, louder, bolder, urged me to keep going, to explore this path I'd stumbled onto. After less than a week, being a girl felt like uncovering a hidden piece of myself, something vibrant and alive. My eyes drifted to the deep green dress hanging in my closet, a symbol of a future I hadn't planned but couldn't ignore. I stood, heart pounding, and pulled it out, holding it up. Will this do? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Mom nodded slowly, a flicker of understanding in her eyes. I headed to the bathroom, the hot shower washing away my doubts as it ruined my carefully styled hair. The water felt cleansing, stripping away my fear. Back in my room, wrapped in a towel, I found Mom had laid out clean panties, a bra, a waist cincher, padded panty brief, and pantyhose. I tucked myself carefully, creating a smooth silhouette, then followed her to her bedroom. Using the $15 makeup kit from the drugstore, I applied foundation and powder, then layered pale blue eyeshadow with a touch of gray, blending it with a sponge. Black eyeliner and pencil outlined my eyes, and for the first time, I tackled mascara, the wand clumsy in my hand. A soft peach blush followed, and Mom dried my hair, leaving it loose with gentle curls at the ends. This'll cinch your waist a bit, she said, handing me the waist cincher. I hooked it up, then pulled on the panty brief and pantyhose, the fabric cool against my skin. The bra went on next, and I slipped into the green dress, its mid-thigh hem swishing as Mom zipped it up. I couldn't hide my grin. "When I was your age, I'd lift my boobs in the bra," she said, a nostalgic smile tugging at her lips. "Made me look fuller. I was an A-cup like you." I adjusted the forms, tugging them up, and straightened the dress's straps to hide the bra. Stepping into black flats, I brushed my hair until it fell straight, the ends curling softly. Mom added 2 barrettes to frame my face. "Are you sure, Sophie?" she asked, her voice gentle. "It's not too late to call Ryan and say you're busy." "No, Mom," I said, my resolve hardening. "I need to know, don't you? Look at me. Does this feel wrong?" "It's only wrong if you think it is," she said. "Do I love that my son looks like a pageant queen and wants to be a girl?" "Not exactly. But I can see that even if we stopped this now, you'd probably sneak into dresses whenever you could. This way, we have some control." "Finish getting ready. I'll talk to your dad. We'll be in the family room." I added gold hoop earrings, a heart-shaped necklace, and a slim gold bracelet, then spritzed Mom's floral perfume. In her closet, I borrowed a gold belt, cinching it around my waist to let the dress blouse slightly, the hem rising to mid-thigh and accentuating my narrower waist. Plum lipstick completed the look. One last glance in the mirror showed a girl ready to face her father, to show him without words that his son was now his daughter. In a week, I'd gone from dreading this to embracing it, a shift I never saw coming. My heart raced as I stepped into the hall, my flats silent on the carpet. I paused, took a deep breath, and entered the family room. Dad sat in his recliner, his face unreadable. His eyes scanned me, hair, makeup, modest cleavage, cinched waist, long legs, and he didn't smile. "Your mom says you're going all in on this girl thing," he said, his voice low. "Got something to tell me? About that boy who called?" "Dad, you know," I started, my voice shaky. "I think I do," he interrupted. "I just want to hear it from you." I'm just being a girl, like you told me to," I said, clinging to the excuse. "I see," he said, his tone calm but probing. "And this effort? It's about that boy, Ryan?" "Not really," I said, desperate. "You told me to do my best, so that's what I'm doing." "I didn't think you were that way," he said, his voice tightening. "About boys." "It's not like that," I blurted. "He thinks I'm a girl." "I didn't. What she means," Mom cut in, "is that she didn't know how she'd look as a girl until we made her try. But we can all see Sophie's beautiful, and boys notice girls like her. It's natural for her to respond this way, and it's not what you're implying." "I get that," Dad said, rubbing his temples. "But why agree to let this Ryan come over? Didn't you realize he'll expect to see Sophie every time he's here? And if you're not into boys, which I'm sure you're not, then what? How could she say no?" Mom countered, exasperated. "He saw her with me at the mall, then at Emily's, right after I told him she was there for a sleepover. He's convinced she's a girl, and he's not changing his mind. He thinks she's pretty enough to meet us. What does that tell you?" "That this is spiraling out of control," Dad snapped. "So, what's your solution?" Mom asked, her voice sharp. "Hide her?" "We could make her stop," he said, but his tone wavered. "Aren't we the ones who insisted on 5 weeks?" Mom shot back, pinning him with a look. Dad was caught, his frustration clear, but his argument crumbling. I stood there, the green dress hugging my frame, feeling Sophie take root deeper than ever, and wondered how I'd face Ryan or Dad when the truth came knocking. Dad was trapped, and he knew it. If he forced me to stop being Sophie, he'd be undermining his own authority after insisting I follow through. But letting me meet Ryan meant acknowledging that Sophie might not vanish easily, especially if things escalated. "If we let you do this, meet this boy, your life's going to get complicated fast," he said, his voice heavy with warning. "You get that, right? We've got family who'll need to know what's going on. What if this spirals out of control? What if you dig yourself in so deep you can't climb out? What about school? Your friends? What's your plan for that? I hadn't thought that far, I admitted, my voice trembling. Tears pricked my eyes, and I sank onto the couch next to Mom, barely holding it together. Let's take it one step at a time, Mom said, her tone calm but firm. No rash decisions. Let's see how this plays out. Maybe Ryan and Sophie won't even click. You're staying home, Dad snapped. No going anywhere with this boy, period. Unless we say it's okay, Mom added, earning a frustrated glare from Dad. I didn't fully understand why I was so invested in this, but the thought of Ryan coming over twisted my insides with both dread and a strange excitement. I'd been raised as Jake, a boy through and through, yet in just a week as Sophie, I was thrilled to be seen as a girl with a boy coming to visit me. Pacing the living room, I couldn't shake the fear that Ryan might know the truth or the hope that he was genuinely drawn to Sophie. Mom caught me mid-stride and pulled me into the kitchen. "Stop pacing," she said, pointing to a chair. "Sit." Waiting was torture, my mind ping-ponging between Ryan's intentions and my own tangled feelings. When the doorbell rang, I jolted upright, ready to answer. "No," Mom said, grabbing my arm. "Stay here. Let your dad get it. He'll call you, and you can make an entrance." A moment later, Dad's voice echoed through the house. "Sophie, it's for you." I glanced at Mom, squared my shoulders, and walked to the front hall, the green dress swishing against my thighs. Ryan stood there, his shy smile widening as he saw me. He looked down, then back up, his cheeks faintly pink. I introduced him to my parents, my voice steadier than I felt, and led him to the back patio, where we sat at the small wrought iron table. "Your mom said you had a sleepover at Emily's?" he asked, settling into his chair. "Yeah," I said, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "We went shopping, stayed out late, so I crashed there." "I like Emily," he said. "She mentioned you're new around here?" "Not too long ago," I said, keeping it vague. "She said you're cousins?" "Yup," I nodded. "Related." "I can see it," he said, his eyes lingering. "You two look alike." I blushed, unsure how to handle the compliment. "Well, Emily said you're super shy. Like, you've never called a girl before. Why me? We barely know each other." He shrugged, a nervous laugh escaping. "I don't know. You're different. It's like I've known you forever. Plus, Emily said you're shy too, so I figured, why not?" Silence settled. That awkward boy-girl pause stretching out, until he spoke again. "Want to take a walk?" "Emily's place isn't far." "I'd have to ask," I said, my heart racing. "My dad's super protective. He might say no, but I'll check." Inside, Mom deferred to Dad, who was in his study. "Dad?" I said, poking my head in. He looked up, his expression unreadable. "Ryan wants to walk to Emily's. I told him I had to ask. Can I?" "Emily's?" he said, frowning. "That's a hike." "He lives near her and walked here," I pointed out. "It's not that far." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Fine. Emily's only. Nowhere else, got it? If I call, you'd better be there." "Got it," I said, grabbing my purse. I told Ryan it was okay, and we started walking toward Emily's house in Westfield. He didn't touch me, no hand-holding, no arm around my waist, until we were a block from Emily's. Then his fingers brushed mine, tentative, before he took my hand. My pulse spiked, but before I could process it, Lauren appeared behind us, falling into step beside me. "Hey," she said, her eyes flicking to our joined hands. "Hi, Lauren," I said, fumbling with my purse to break the grip. "This is Ryan." "Yeah, we go to school together," she said, smirking. "Hey, Ryan." At Emily's, I rang the bell, and she bounded out, grinning when she saw Ryan. We settled on the porch, the summer air warm and thick. Lauren, never one to hold back, piped up. "Well, look at little Miss Innocent snagging a guy." "What?" Ryan asked, confused. "Nothing," Emily said, nudging Lauren. She's just jealous. Ryan seemed to catch on, his cheeks reddening. We talked for an hour, light chatter about school and summer, until Dad called to confirm I was there and to say we were going out for dinner. He'd pick me up soon. Ryan squeezed my hand as he left, a small gesture that sent a jolt through me. Lauren wandered off, and Emily held back her questions since Aunt Linda was nearby. We watched TV until my parents arrived, and I headed home, the weight of the day lingering. The next week flew by, and I slipped deeper into Sophie's skin than any of us expected. With a month left before the gala, the thought of returning to Jake filled me with dread. I started wearing a sanitary pad, curious about the experience. It made me feel more like a girl, though the bulk in my panties also reminded me how precarious my disguise was. Emily, Lauren, and Katie became my daily crew, their banter and rituals gossiping, joking, debating outfits giving me a front row seat to how girls think. Dad took us to dinner a few times, his mood thawing slightly, but Thursday of the third week shifted everything. Over pasta at a Maplewood trattoria, I mentioned Katie's upcoming birthday party, 2 weeks after my supposed deadline to stop. Dad's face darkened, his eyes flickering between dislike and something like despair. At home, he exploded. "This is done," he said, his voice like steel. "Change clothes. Sophie's over." I froze, words caught in my throat, but Mom spoke first. "She can't." "What do you mean she can't?" he barked. "I said it's over." "We heard you," Mom said, her tone measured. "But those breast forms?" "They're glued on. Removing them before the adhesive weakens could tear her skin. We have to wait. And with those, she can't exactly go back to being a boy." "What?" Dad's voice rose, incredulous. "This is out of control. This was supposed to teach our son to watch his mouth, not—" Dad's face was a storm cloud, his voice rising with every word. "How could you let this happen? We've got a boy calling the house for her, and now you're saying she has to stay like this, no matter what we want? I warned you this would spiral, didn't I? This was supposed to be a lesson, not this." "It was meant to teach him," Mom said, her voice steady but strained. But what?" Dad cut in, his hands gripping the arms of his chair. "What's more important than teaching our son a lesson?" "Sophie found out she likes being a girl," Mom said, her eyes flicking to me. "Look at her. Is there any trace of our son? Nobody saw this coming, not us, not her, but it happened. You've seen her for 3 weeks. Has she acted, looked, or sounded like a boy even once? No. She loves being Sophie, and it's so clear she doesn't want to stop that I'm shocked you can't see it." "I didn't raise my son to be a girl," Dad snapped, his voice raw. "That's true," Mom countered, unflinching. "But we can't change who someone is once they discover their truth. Sophie thought girls were just here to please guys, but now she knows better. She's learned it's more than that, and we can't undo how she feels. Sure, you could force her to change clothes, but she'd probably sneak into dresses the second we're not looking. How much control would you have then?" Dad's eyes locked onto me, his scowl cutting deep. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice low and hard. I glanced at Mom, then nodded, my throat too tight to speak. "Damn it!" he barked, slamming his hand on the chair. "My son, the girl," Mom finished, her tone final. The room crackled with tension, the truth hanging heavy. I felt like a traitor, like I'd betrayed Dad's vision of me. His stare made me feel like dirt, but there was no taking back what Mom had said. She'd spoken for me, leaving me defenseless, unable to explain the whirlwind inside. Her words fueled his anger, and I braced for the fallout. We sat in silence, each lost in our own storm, until Dad spoke again. "If you knew this, why didn't you tell me?" he demanded, glaring at Mom. "I deserve to know." "Because Sophie and I weren't certain until a few days ago," Mom said, exasperation creeping in. "That's why." "But you suspected, didn't you?" he pressed. "Did that boy Ryan have anything to do with this? I didn't think she was like that." "You know better than to say that," Mom shot back. Ryan has nothing to do with it. Suggesting any attraction happened before Sophie emerged is ridiculous, and you know it. What's the plan then? Dad asked, his voice bitter. Tell everyone our son's our daughter now? Do you realize what that'll mean? I've thought about it, Mom said. Our focus has to be Sophie. Maybe she can stay a girl for the summer, go back to school as a boy, and we let her dress up sometimes? Dad shook his head. No, that won't work. The second we let her play dress up, someone will show up, my boss, a friend, one of her friends. What about those girls she's with? How do we explain it to them? Or Ryan? The rest of the family? It's a mess. Having a daughter isn't a disaster, Mom said, her voice softening. The only clear path is to accept we have a daughter now and tackle problems as they come. Dad hated that idea, but he'd already admitted forcing me to stop would draw attention, leaving him with two grim choices. Let me continue as Sophie and convince everyone I was a girl, or make me revert to Jake and face the consequences, scrutiny, questions, and my own rebellion. He stared at me, his eyes searching, then sighed. Since the glue on those breast forms needs time to wear off, we'll wait. You can go to Katie's party, but the second it's safe, you're done with Sophie. We'll handle whatever comes after. Don't forget the gala that started this, Mom added. Sophie needs a new dress and another salon visit. After that, maybe... Fine! Dad cut in, his voice sharp. Do what you need to, but after the gala, Sophie's gone and Jake's back. His words hit like a sledgehammer. I bolted to my room, slamming the door, tears burning my eyes. Discovering I wanted to be Sophie, embracing her, had been exhilarating, but having it ripped away crushed me. I was furious at Dad, at his refusal to see me. I stripped off the green dress, the waist cincher, the pantyhose, until I stood in just panties, my manhood tucked to maintain the illusion of the girl I longed to be. The door swung open without a knock, and Dad froze, his face reddening at the sight of me, breast forms, smooth silhouette, and all. Put something on, he barked, averting his eyes. Why? I shot back, defiance flaring. It's nothing you haven't seen before. Do it, he snapped. Get a robe or something and lose that tone. Whatever, I muttered, grabbing a robe but leaving it loose. Tell me why, he said, his voice softer but urgent. Why, out of nowhere, do you want to be a girl? It's not out of nowhere, I said, my voice shaking. It just happened. I didn't choose it. But you really want this? He pressed. Do you understand what it means? Yeah, I said, meeting his gaze. I'd wear skirts instead of jeans. No, he said, frustrated. What if we let you? What if a boy gets interested in you? So? I shrugged. I wouldn't do anything, not like you're thinking. But someday that could happen, he said, his voice tight. What then? Maybe by then I'd be a real girl, I said, the words spilling out. With my own boobs and everything. He sat on my bed, staring at me. Women do a lot for men work, clean, cook, shop, all that, plus more. It's not just makeup and clothes. Those, he gestured at the breast forms, look real. Are you used to them? Do they get in the way? They're not in the way, I said, wrapping the robe tighter. They feel real, I guess. Want a touch? No, he said, recoiling. I'll take your word for it. I hate this. You know that, right? I nodded. And school? It'll be trouble. Another nod. So we've got a problem. But you said I had to. As a girl, you'd have new rules, he cut in. Earlier curfew, more chores. We'd expect you to be Sophie completely, no slip-ups. You'd handle your own problems and only ask for help when you absolutely need it. Clear? Yes, sir, I said, my heart racing. Does that mean... What does it mean? It means you've got until school starts to prove being a girl is right for you. If you can, we'll see what's next. But no more slamming doors, backtalk, or sarcasm. If you manage that, we'll try it a trial. Now go to bed. It's late. I stood frozen as he left, stunned. Dad had flipped, giving me a chance to be Sophie. The next morning, Mom and I returned to the salon in Westfield, where I got a fresh haircut and a manicure. The $90 bill a small price for the confidence it gave me. We also ordered a special panty online, designed to enhance my feminine silhouette, opening up new clothing options. I attended Katie's party, surrounded by kids who knew Jake but saw only Sophie. Lauren flirted shamelessly. Katie caught Ethan's eye. Emily fended off a guy named Noah. And I stuck close to Ryan, his quiet presence oddly comforting. For the gala, the event that sparked this journey, I wore a stunning lilac gown, all satin and lace, its $150 price tag worth every penny. Dad escorted me, even dancing with me, his steps stiff but his effort clear. I started at a new school as Sophie, accepted as a girl by everyone. I went on a few dates with Ryan, his shy smiles disarming, but kept things casual. After graduation, I began the real journey toward becoming a woman, each step thrilling and daunting. I couldn't wait to see where it led.